Hello, and welcome to the second in our series of artist talks for the Kenojuak Ashevak Memorial Award shortlisted artists. My name is Napachi Folger, and I'm the Tautungwakti at Inuit Art Foundation. I'm originally from Inuit Nunangat and currently live in North Vancouver, British Columbia. Although we are all joining remotely from across North America today, I'd like to acknowledge the land on which the Inuit Art Foundation is currently located. It's on the ancestral and traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe and the Huron-Wendat, the original owners and custodians of the land. Today, this place is home to many, including a diverse urban indigenous community of Inuit, Métis, and First Nations. On May 19th, 2023, the Inuit Art Foundation announced the shortlisted artists for KAMA in conjunction with the opening of Ananata Unikangit, Our Mother's Stories, their group exhibition at the Winnipeg Art Gallery, Kenojuak, which runs until November 2023. This is the first year KAMA includes a special exhibition for the shortlist, thanks to the exceptional support of RBC emerging artists. In addition to the exhibition, each artist shortlisted for the award receives a $5,000 cash prize. Pardon me, I have a little bit of a cold. This evening, we have the pleasure of hearing Takalik Partridge in conversation with shortlisted artist Kablusiak. Takalik Partridge is an Inuk artist, curator, and poet, originally from Inuit Nunangat in Quebec. She's currently the associate curator of Indigenous art with Inuit Art Focus at the Art Gallery of Ontario. Before joining the AGO in 2022, she served as director of the Nordic Lab at Saw Gallery and adjunct curator at the Art Gallery of Guelph. She has also worked as communications director for Avata Cultural Institute and editor-at-large for the Inuit Art Quarterly. Kablusiak, who is a Calgary-based Inuvialuk artist and curator, uses art and humor as a mechanism to subtly address diaspora and to openly address mental illness. The lighthearted nature of their practice extends gestures of empathy and solidarity. So welcome, Kablusiak and Takalik. Over to you, Takalik.
Thanks, Napachi. So happy to be here with you today and to be the one who was invited to have this conversation with you, Kablusiak. A little bit nervous, but I'll get over it. So first of all, congratulations on being shortlisted for KAMA and also on being shortlisted for the SOBI. These are hopping in your world. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. So, first of all, talking about KAMA, as we know, the award was created in honor of the late Kenojuak Ashevak, and I'm wondering what her legacy means to you and your practice.
I feel like, I don't know, as someone who kind of grew up surrounded by Inuit art without really knowing it was Inuit art, like paintings, carvings from both sides of my family growing up, Naskaloaks and carpenters. I think it just her work just reminds me kind of that same vibe almost of like this like art that you kind of live with. So I feel like that I think is along the same sort of vibe of how her legacy and her work kind of ripples.
Did you, when you were a child, did you feel that it was a possibility that you would be an artist?
It kind of always felt like an option. As like, it wasn't a weird, crazy thing to, be like, oh, I'm just gonna go to art school and, see, roll the dice, see if it works. It wasn't like, what are you doing with your life? It was like, oh, that was totally encouraged.
Yeah. Because you have artists on both sides of your family.
Totally.
So the thing about your work though is like, I feel like you're in a league of your own. You're just so, your work is so brilliant and moving, and like the next time I see something and I'm like, oh, this is really smart, and this is really cheeky, or this is really funny. And then I move on to the next thing and it's a totally different medium and a totally different side of cheekiness or smartness, or I don't know. I just like what they've done it again. And that's why I say I'm so excited about your work and about what's happening with your career. What is it in you that makes you want to explore all these different media?
Probably the recently diagnosed ADHD.
Okay.
But I think also just like I really enjoy learning what a medium feels like and all the ins and outs of it, and just tinkering with everything and trying to see if I could figure it out. Like, if I'm inspired by another contemporary artist, Indigenous artist, it's like, wow, their use of materials is something that really, I don't know, bubbles up in me. And how do I explore that myself? And it's really cool to be able to, spread my little feelers all over and work with a variety of media.
Yeah. But the thing that just like, it's not surprising, but it's like, it's sort of like awe-inspiring that you do well in those media that you explore also. Like the line drawing, and then the sculptural, like fabric sculptural pieces, and then the soapstone, and all of it kind of just hits home really well. Something like the first time I encountered your work, I think it was the Ghost series of photos. And I was like, who is this person? Like that, the ghost, especially in front of the Northern store, I was like, I just couldn't explain why it just said so much to me. And it just felt like that's the truth. And I don't know how to explain why that was my reaction to it. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that series.
Yeah, I love the way you put that. It feels like so grounding to hear that also. The series, initially I started in art school at AU Arts. It was like a photo project, or it was a drawing project about memento mori. And I was like, okay, let's do a ghost. Memento mori, like you'll die. There's a ghost coming. It's very like spooky, delicious. Yeah. And then I had been working with the ghost previously in art school, and it didn't really dawn on me until later that like the ghost is actually just like a way to talk about a bunch of different things, and kind of having that tongue-in-cheek, like weird to, I don't know, kind of jarring almost. But so the first series was in Calgary, and then I think 2018 I went to Inuvik for during the what do you call Great Northern Arts Festival, and I was it was like a residency provided by Canadian Art, where it was a north-south artist exchange, but they picked two Inuit artists to like. I went up to Inuvik, and Jesse Chunglik went to the Banff Center. But while I was in Inuvik, I was able to make some carvings, and then was able to continue that photo series. So I was like, just trying to scope out familiar spots of like, like when you can't tell if it's a memory or if it's like somebody retold it to you, or if you was dreaming about it. So I hadn't been to Inuvik in like 20 something years. And so there was like, I don't know, even smells of like the KFC inside the Northern, like these really specific things that were jumping out to me. So I was trying to like harness those sort of vibes when I was picking out spots for doing the ghost photos. And it just, it worked out really amazingly. Nick Brown, he used to work for Canadian Art and he was helping with the residency. So he came up to Inuvik for a little bit. And I was like, okay, now that you're here, we got to take some photos. Like you will be the cameraman and I will be the ghost in the shot. But it was really funny too, taking pictures in front of that northern, like I have outtakes just like on my cell phone, and it's just like folks hanging out, walking by, kind of just being like, that's cool. Like not even like batting an eye about it, which is like, I love that. So that's sort of how those photos happened.
Do you think after like a few years on that you have, do you think those works have gained more meaning for you? Like, has their meaning changed?
I think it's gotten more meaning for sure. And even just having other people's responses and reactions, it kind of adds into the different layers, and it could, like, I don't know, it just kind of makes it even more meaningful over time that people respond and react really beautifully to it. But yeah, I want to do more with the ghost in the future, but we'll see.
Please do. Like when I see that, especially that one in front of Northern Story, it just like it says to me like the figure, which is obviously you in the outfit, but like the figure might be somebody who is excluded or included and remembered and not there anymore, or I don't know. There's just so many layers. So it's like this. The visual is simple, but then the layers of meaning just seem to like sort of reveal themselves over time, and the more you think about it. I love this about your other photo work too, as we know. One of my first things that I did working at AGO was to try to acquire some of your work, and it went through committee, and we did acquire it at the AGO. And these were actually photographs from your first shortlist SOBI exhibition. Could you talk a little bit about that project? And again, this is another series of works that I just I don't know, it just seems like the truth. I can't describe it in a better way. It's like, that is true, or there's truth in there.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Those photos were originally part of a slideshow carousel of 80 slides. They were taken on film, processed in Vancouver. I think I had a friend help me out with the whole process of it, and had another friend, we borrowed his projector for the installation. But the photo series itself, Biennial, translates to "It's Mine Now." And I wanted to reclaim my body that I have no choice but to exist in, and also sort of address the white gaze and the colonial gaze and the male gaze kind of wrapped up all in one. And the props in those photos are referencing the way that northern communities, they get items via barge, and it's like flour, sugar, these settler imported foods that it's quick, easy, cheap, and will give you diabetes and like ruin your health and your children's health for the foreseeable future. We know, we love that vibe. I mean, but like it gave us Bannock, so yeah, double two-edged sword. But anyways, I was thinking a lot about photos from like 50s, 60s archival. Paul Cisqueses would post a lot of photos. Just like thinking a lot about also how like researchers would go up north and do their thing, take photos of these exotic beings, and then go back down south and do their thing. But there, yeah, it's a lot of stuff wrapped up into the photo series for sure.
What do you think it is that as Inuit, we have this fascination with these ubiquitous commodities that have, like you said, kind of have a double edge? Like, there's many artists who are really into. I myself, I don't talk about those things in my work, but I always post about them. Like pilot biscuits or stuff like that. Like one of my profile pictures from like 2000 and I don't know what is click like spam. Why are we so interested in those things that Inuit that we in our communities came to depend on?
It almost feels like we're reclaiming these things without even knowing.
Yeah.
Like I've been thinking a lot about the Mother Hubbard parka design, where it's like, neck to ankle covered up, and it's like missionaries love to spread that dress pattern all over, I guess. So it's like you see them in Hawaii and other places, but like it's interesting to see how that was adopted, and just like I don't know, it was like we took that dress pattern and ran with it, and just like I love that like design style also. It just is so like prairie gothic, very chic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny how, I think it's just like I feel like Inuit are very we know what to do with the stuff that we're given.
Mm-hmm. And make it our own.
Yeah.
So like when you're there with your very sexy Mother Hubbard and your big thing of flour, it's like you're owning everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I feel like you're fearless, like you know what the heartbeat of the Inuit art movement has been, and you sort of put your finger on it and sort of make it kind of skip a beat. And then you do things that are subversive, but at the same time very loving. And so I wonder, can you talk a little bit about that, about the aspect of your work that has to do with subverting the sort of general understanding of what Inuit art should be?
I feel like it just comes from this like punk part of me that used to exist and probably still does somewhere, but I don't know. Grew up in Edmonton, and it was kind of just like a little bit, sketch. And at art school, I got into the punk scene and was kind of just made a bunch of friends with these people who had these different attitudes. And it's like, sometimes I think about it, and it's like, I could relate it back to the freedom of whiteness, but that's another conversation for another day. But I think just like that punkness of being like, you know what, like, let's challenge a little something here and there and see what we could get away with.
I also feel like even though you are challenging and sometimes like very strongly challenging what people hold to be true about Inuit art, you also approach things, especially when you're speaking, when I've seen you speaking, in a way that is very welcoming and very generous and patient. And I really admire you for that. And I think that translates into the way that I see you doing your work, but also in the way that you curate. So you've done curation, you're part of the groundbreaking exhibition of Inuk. Do you see a role in there, both in your sort of like your subversive kind of Inuit art and then your curation? Like, do you see a role that is a responsibility to your community, to communities plural? How do you view your practice in both those realms?
I think at the basis of it is just like, how do I how do I show care? How do I give space for folks just in general, of like the term curator is like to care for objects. I think that's where it comes from originally or whatever. But I think leaving space for people to interact with my work even is something that I always want to strive to do. Because I feel like maybe it's just in me of trying to give the I don't know, some compassion, and know that even if I do make art about residential schools, it's like some people may not know about that stuff, and that's okay. And you know, people could live under a rock and enjoy it, and I'd love to live under a rock. But anyways, I think it's allowing people to have space, and also trying to make it accessible too. That's something I think about, is like how could this not be just for a specific elite group of folks, but how do we make it more laterally available, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I still want to repeat that I really admire your patience and generosity with people, though. Sometimes it's hard when people ask you rude questions. You know, one of the things that I have heard you mention a little bit, I remember I was on a talk during lockdown, and you were, I think you were an attendee, and you asked a question about, or you made a comment about how the depiction of Inuit culture, something about how the depiction of Inuit culture especially in art, is so gender binary, and you know, trying to unpack that and you know, have people's understandings of that grow. And I wonder if you would like to talk about how you do that in your work, and how you actually even see it in older work, that things were not necessarily, well, this is this and this is this. Do you know? I don't know if I'm asking the question the right way, but
it just kind of makes me think of like men's roles and women's roles traditionally in our communities, you know, hunting and sewing. But I think it's more so like the title of like being a hunter and being a sewer. Like it doesn't really matter if it's man or woman. It's like, what roles are you going to fulfill? And that's kind of how I like to see it. I don't know if that answers your question-ish. I'm not sure.
It totally does. But I wonder if, like, do you feel that it's your intention in your own work to kind of address that, or it's just because you are you that you end up addressing it anyway?
I think totally both. It's like, say with those like lingerie, parka, Eskimo, sexy outside photos, that one for sure is like, you know what, this is the body that I was, you know, given, might as well like work, and also try to like work it into the project as well, of like using my body as part of the work. But yeah, also just existing as a person who, you know, assigned female at birth, was socialized as a woman, and now is like kind of realizing that gender is not as real as I thought it was.
I wonder if we could share some of the, so could we share the red ukpik?
Red ukpik. Oh, there he is.
So I saw this work in person. I love it. Ukpik, the original famous ukpik is from my community. So I grew up with ukpiks everywhere, like everywhere. And then to see it like brought to the stage, and this very funny, very cute, very like cheeky pose. Could you talk a little bit about this work and the series that it goes with?
So there's a couple other Ukpiks that I had done, the Furby one, the Plucked one, the Garfield one, and this guy is kind of the last one who came out. But I just thought it would be really cute and sweet to have like a little sub Ukpik wearing a harness, and I made a couple sculptures that were like BDSM related sex toys. And I was thinking about those works in a way of care and consent and trust. And so this little Ukpik has put his trust in somebody enough to harness him up. So I feel like even if it looks a little bit like, I don't know, outlandish or brazen, or this belongs in the bedroom, it feels like something that is just like another part of existing and caring about other people, and that's sort of where he came from.
And so like I feel like he's red, and red is a very strong color, so like even if he's being putting his well-being in somebody else's hands, he's very powerful at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just so darn cute. This is the thing. So like when I look at your Furby Ukpik or Garfield Ukpik, it's like, okay, this is serious art. This is Inuit art. Like this is bringing us into the future, and it's so cute. But you know what? Like, so I think this is something that actually a colleague and I were talking about, Emily Henderson, we were talking about how like Inuit art always has had this like cheeky sense of humor, and like even subversive in a lot of those works that we consider to be from late elders, and I'm drawing a blank, but it's just like so cheeky and so funny. But how can something be serious and really beautiful and cheeky and so cute at the same time? And so then the next I love, okay, so surprise bag. I love this. I love the idea where it comes from. Could you talk about the idea where it comes from? Because, well, first of all, it's like you've got all your things in there. Like you got your tiny wall hanging, you've got your soapstone sculpture, you've got, anyway, please talk about it.
I was also, thank you for all the lovely, beautiful words. I'm trying super hard not to cry in the middle of this talk. So
you can cry. It's okay.
The surprise bag, I wanted to make my own version of those ones you would get at 7-Eleven. Those like blue, I personally would not try to feel it up to see what's in it, just because I don't want to play God in that way. So I just brainstormed with Shannon Norberg, my gallerist, good friend, just like kind of spitballed. We went to Party City for inspo and to see what other surprise bags look like out there. But I was thinking a lot about as well, like artist multiples, the what it means to have such a limited run of objects, and also trying to like bring in an aspect of play. And for the imagery on the bag itself, I kind of wanted it to be threatening somehow, so I kind of just the bat, the violence of smashing. Yeah, and like the text on the back for the puzzle, it's like find your own way out. Yeah. Like, something about it, like the cute, the menacing is, I love that, like where they meet.
Yeah, and even the like bubbles around the words are just kind of like explosive.
Totally.
So that work, that series of works, they're just very small things. And like, do you find like, because I think that sometimes in the museum setting, there's like an emphasis on like the works that like will draw the crowds in, like the big works that just like, oh, and like for me, this work is but it's also very small, very sort of contemplated things that you really have to consider in order to, kind of start to get what's going on. Is it important for you? How do I say it? Do you find that there's a difference between doing bigger works and smaller works? Because you do some big works, but you do a lot of smaller works too. Like, is it important to you, the size? Like, is there's significance to doing the smaller works? I guess that's my question.
I never really think about it unless I'm like prompted with like a, hey, do you want to do like a wall-sized vinyl piece? Like part of like the scale of everything I do is based off of like, I don't know, accessibility, or that's kind of I'm just working within my means pretty much, right? Like I can't go and make, like my uncle showed me his carving place up in Tuktoyaktuk, and it's like has a whole beautiful yard and multiple like sheds, and like this is my carving studio and this is my that, and I was like, this is like goals for sure. I think it's just like working in a scale that is also I'm used to, which is nice to be able to just hone in that skill. But I also, there's something super appealing about like billboard sized photos. It's like it carries a totally different meaning. Hey, so I do like the intimacy of small things and kind of, I don't know, there's like little bits and bobs for you to like, I don't know, absorb over time.
Yeah. So are you like, is your workspace in your home, or do you have a studio space, or where do you do your work?
I share a studio with my partner, and it's pretty just regular studio space. So we went to the government surplus store and picked up a bunch of tables. So there's enough room to work around in, but it's also like I've been kind of in flux, and I also work off my iPad a lot. So it's like all these things that feel very portable.
So this one made me, this one made me kind of cry. It made me cry. Like it's just so good. So the title is Things That Both, is it both a stranger or both a relative? Both
a relative.
Both a relative and a stranger could say.
Both
a relative and a river could say, sorry.
Yeah.
sorry. And this is a collaborative work, right?
The rocks and the boulders is the collaborative part. The text itself is something that I had did. Yeah, but it was a part of a larger like public art permanent exhibition, I guess.
Yeah. And so where is that?
I think it's Elbow Island, in the Mission area of Calgary. There's like a little bridge, and then I actually haven't visited in person yet, but I've seen pictures, and it's just like, in this really beautiful part of the river.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful. Talking about that work, you were saying that you didn't want to do public art that is supposedly there for like forever, in a way that would sort of mark the land because you're not specifically from that area, even though you live there. And this is a question that I often think about, like, how are we as Inuit, and especially if we're artists or creators, how do we relate to the land if we don't live in our traditional territories or traditional communities, and how do we maintain our identity as Inuit? And I wonder if you could talk about how you came to that kind of feeling of being able to do a public art piece at the same time as being cognizant of not being specifically from that area.
Totally. That was such like a brain hurdle for me to reckon with, but I was thinking, water connects us. What we're, literally, it's, recycled water all over. It's the same water that the dinosaurs have, peed out. So that felt like an access point for sure.
But have you ever watched Spirited Away?
No, not yet.
You have to watch it. There's like a whole river reference there, and yeah, you have to watch that. So good.
Yes.
I won't spoil a few, but it goes with your artwork really well.
Oh, I love that.
And then the next one, okay, like this is what I mean. Like anybody who's listening, this is what I mean, but by the smarts keep coming. So like there was that, which is this really profound piece that makes people cry, or me at least. And then there's this, which is so smart. And also it's like just what I loved as a kid. I know lots of Inuit love these, like the find the thing in the picture. So good. Okay, I'll let you talk.
There was two other drawings that were together, and I made them for an exhibition at Art Speak in Vancouver in 2020. So in the gallery space, there was these vinyl cutouts kind of randomly, but they were aspects from each of the drawing kind of blown up, and you could find them in real life. And a couple of soapstone carvings were also exhibited in this space. They were covered with a plexiglass, and the plexi had like ghost eyes cut out. But I just wanted to like have something that people could play with and interact with and have fun with, and having artwork accessible for people to do their own thing with is something that I always want to try to be cognizant of, for sure.
And then I wonder, so it goes into the next image as well, but I wonder, like with this, like the black and white, the line drawings, do you ever feel that you're kind of working in the vein of other noted Inuit artists, like for example, Inuvialuk, I believe, who did a lot of black and white work, and was also, subversive in his own way. And also I love a mess. I love a mess scene. Like I love photos with mess in them. I love a drawing with like just random things in it. I just have to say that personally. It's like with lots of stuff to look at, it's like maximalist experience of like examining the work.
Yeah, I love that connection to other Inuit artists. Like it's very, very totally, I could see it.
So something that I am trying to do in my work is kind of show the breadth of Inuit art practice today, but also in the past. Like we always say, as Inuit, we know that we have 4 official Inuit regions in Canada, and then lots of Inuit living away from the north as well. And then, people, when they think of Inuit art, they might think only a specific part of Nunavut, for example. Not Nunavik, not Nunatsiavut, not Inuvialuk. Has that played any part of your practice, like the understanding or the knowledge that Inuvialuk artists have not been as well recognized as some other artists, Inuit artists from other regions, or is it something that you don't consider?
I always try to be like acknowledging and like representing that Inuvialuk presence, but it just reminds me kind of, I was in Inuk recently for Inuk Nordic festival, and I forgot who I was chatting with, or anyways, I was like, from the Western Arctic, and then they were like, West Side. I was like, I love that so much. And I was like, yes, I feel like I just want to like do my best at repping the Western Arctic, because I do feel like it's, not as it's not up there in people's minds when they think of, regions where Inuit art is bumping.
Mhm. But you're changing that just by being you.
I mean,
I
also, I appreciate that. I'm trying.
The next one, so that's the last one in the photos that we have. Of course, we have other things to talk about, but going to the photos. Also, just another medium, colorful, color drawing, subversive, but also kind of very personal. And also you say that it's done inspired by Annie Putuguk's style. So, just a very honest portrait of a real situation. Can you talk about it? And also, speaking of people like Annie Putuguk who just absolutely honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that like unfiltered, just, I don't know, expression is something that I always want to be able to do myself. And sometimes there's memories in your brain that it's like, you know what, I think I'm going to try to make this into an art piece.
Mhm.
This was one of those moments of like, what are these like cringy moments that I could draw on for inspo.
Mhm. But you can see like it's two girls, one computer, but you can see that they're young in the way that they're seated and the way they're sitting kind of in a vulnerable way. I think you captured it so well. Like it's not just like adults who are just like, oh, but it's like young people who are like, oh, well, what is this? And like exploring kind of.
Yeah, like making sure their knees are not touching because,
Yeah. Don't don't breathe on each other. Or,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's very beautiful. And how big is this piece?
Maybe 11 by 14, I think. Yeah, decent sized.
So another thing that okay, I have to ask this question because I know that lots of people are curious, and this is like a total like veering off to the other side, but like, so when you found out that you were shortlisted for Kama, and when you found out that you were shortlisted for Sobi, again, who do you call first?
My partner was the first person I told, and also my mom.
Okay, cool. What did your mom say? What did your partner say?
Partner, very stoked, very excited, happy, cried together. Mom, I think she's like, okay, hold on for a sec, and just like got off the phone, and I think she was like happy, crying, and yeah. She's
your mom is super cool because I know I've been on a call that she was on. She's so cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, she's my idol for sure.
Yeah. And so back to the practice. I'm curious because I think that you've done quite a few collaborations, and like lots of artists that I talk to sort of prefer to really work in isolation. And I feel like you do some of that, but also you seem to like reach out and work with many artists from different backgrounds and working in different media.
Yeah. I feel like it's just like artist friends and the community that I'm in is so generous and full of really amazing people. So I feel like relying on them and working with them is a really amazing I don't know, reciprocity. I would hope so, but yeah, I just feel lucky to be able to work with so many cool, talented people.
Do you find that like, is there a point when you're making a piece that you feel like it's sort of you've got at the core of what it is that you want to make, And is that feeling different when you're doing a collaboration, if you do have that feeling?
I don't know if I could pinpoint that feeling during a collaboration, but more so in like the solo.
Hmm.
Yeah. Like it makes me think of the soapstone ball gag. I like dremeled out the middle with just like a regular drill with a tool, whatever, and then kind of just did the rest by hand with, I put the ball on like a dowel to be able to like round it out nicely by hand. And that was like super satisfying when it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like, what about when you did like a cigarette, for example? That seems like that would break. Did you make some that broke?
I did, because I was like, oh, because sometimes I'll put them out and save them for later.
Yeah. And do you like, is there any medium that you haven't yet tried that you're like, you really want to try?
Bronze casting.
Oh.
Yeah, that seems like such a cool material to work with, and even just like mold making and sand casting, all that cool stuff.
Yeah. And then is there like a big project, like a dream project, or maybe you don't want to share the idea, but do you have stuff like on the horizon that you're like, oh, I really want to do this thing? Like if everything was right, I would do this thing. Like, how do you choose your projects, I guess?
Oh my God, that's right. I think it's all about like, do I have time for this? And like, how much can I harness my procrastination to be able to get something through the door? But there's like a couple carvings that I want to, knock on wood, try to do for the soapies, but if not later. But yeah, more soapstone for sure.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about what kind of work you were doing, and you just said what kind of work you were doing for your soapy exhibition. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you. Me too.
It'll be good. I believe in you.
Thank you.
And do you have other exhibitions upcoming? Do you have other artist residencies planned for the coming year, or?
Nothing planned yet, but everything feels so by the seat of your pants in the arts.
Yeah.
Kind of fun.
Yeah. It must be really helpful to have a gallerist that you like to work with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And do you find other Inuit artists ask you about that? Because like not every Inuk artist works with a gallerist.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever gotten too many questions or wanderings about it. Yeah. Even just I think having gallery representation is really, it's very special.
Yeah. And then I think we're going to move on to other questions from the audience, but I just wanted to ask one more question, and about like your openness about talking about mental health. And also you're also open about the fact that you will take time for yourself when you need it, which is another thing that people are like, working in the art world, it's always like hustle, hustle, hustle. But I noticed that when you need the time, you're like, I'm taking this time.
Yeah, like I've learned a lot from my friend Missy LeBlanc, curator, amazing writer, just like disability advocation and being like, this is not brain surgery, nobody will die, and like for the sake of being able to like have a cup that's full enough to pour out of, it's like you gotta be able to refill your own cup, and sometimes you need medication to help that, and that's totally chill. And thank God for Indian Affairs for covering my medication. Yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't ask about that you're like, oh, she needs to ask about that?
No, it's all good. This has been so fun to chat with you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so lucky. I'm the luckiest one.
Ah.
And thank you again for being so generous as usual with your answers.
Oh, thank you.
So I think we can move on to questions from participants. If people have questions, this is your chance to ask the shortlisted artist who is shortlisted for Kama and shortlisted for Sobi at this time. Like, this is historical moment. So ask your questions now. You have them right in front of you live. Oh, here we go. Chat Q&A. Uyara asking tips for upcoming and emerging artists. Any advice for upcoming and emerging Inuit artists?
I would say, I don't know. It depends if you're in a spot that has like a art galleries and that sort of resources, because that would be my number one recommendation, is like starting small, starting locally. 'Cause I interned at a artist run center right after graduating from ACAD, and I think it just like helped set my path in a really intentional way. But getting to know your local art community is like the first super helpful step, and then just like it's a lot of hustle, so there's that, but it's also a balance of like, you can't pour from an empty cup, but also like we live in a society that believes in timelines and all that other stuff. So I think it's just like also just like giver, because what's the worst that happens? You say no, they say no, that's okay, try again. It's that like squeaky wheel gets the grease sort of vibes.
I've heard you say that phrase before and I loved it that time, and it's great. Giver.
Giver, just giver.
To quote Kablusiak, giver. So that leads me actually to a little bit of a side question to that. Is like, because I see Inuit artists across the board, even like, in Alaska, in Greenland, connecting on social media. Do you find that has been a good way to connect, or you feel that you have a community online of other Inuit artists from other areas?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like the one way we could stay connected pretty much across our beautiful Nuna.
Imagine if we had an Inuit country, like it's so huge. Napache asking, okay, that's not me like advocating for any kind of like, but Napache asking, do you have a favorite piece? This is always a good question that I forget to ask.
Favorite piece. Oh, it's in between the Ukbiks and the soapstone razor, just because of like the hand feel of it, and like getting it that thin and with like all the little lines on it. And I think I even like was able to get like the shape of the razors, like the two of them stacked. So I feel like that is like, I just want to lick it. Like it's so satisfying.
Do you like, who do you draw inspiration from, or where do you like, is there kind of music that you listen to? Are there other artists or other creators, or just even, other, like what kind of things really just get you going?
Honestly, like chatting with other artists and having time and space to really just like, I don't know, sit with your art feelings and not worry about, I gotta do laundry and great groceries. So I feel like artist residencies have been such like a beautiful haven to be able to explore that. Like in January, I was in Minneapolis for a residency held by oh my God, FD13. And I just felt so like, just like visiting and being around other artists, I was like a pot like boiling over with excitement about like the future and art and everything. And then, you go back to reality, and then you gotta like let that simmer back down. So it's, I think that's a fun place for inspiration for sure.
And Lindsay McIntyre says, congratulations, Kablusiak. I don't have a question, but I love your work.
Oh,
Another
ditto.
amazing Inuk artist, filmmaker. Inuk 360, another, I mean, all the Inuit artists are on here now. What would you tell your younger self with what you know now?
I think trust yourself is the biggest one. And like, you know, you already have the self-confidence and all that. It's there. It's just like you need to water that plant.
Hmm.
Mm.
And do you think that like for me, I've been thinking a lot about how creative practice is really just part of our culture. Like I think this, like people are always like trying to puzzle, like, oh, why are there so many Inuit artists? Like, but it's because I feel like it's because our culture, our cultures encourage us to all have a creative practice, and it's not necessarily to make work that is going to go in an exhibition, but sometimes it does end up in an exhibition if that's what we want to do. But I feel like every Inuk I know pretty much is an artist in a way, if you define an artist by them making stuff that, you know, has some kind of meaning and some kind of visual impact or some kind of something.
Mm.
I wonder what you think about like the role of creative practice in contemporary Inuit culture.
Well, I love the phrasing of that anyways. So it's just but yeah, I totally agree. Like we've been making art since day one, you know, it's kind of always been in us, and being able to create, I think, is just something we can't not do, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everybody just, yeah. And then when it's like sewing season and like people are making outfits and everybody's like sort of like trying to make the best one, and like, or people like posting on Facebook, does this trim look good with this trim or should it be this trim?
Yeah, I love that. Just like collab to the max.
Yeah. Oh, Inuk 360 had commented it again. Congratulations, and I look forward to all the years ahead for you and your creativity. Big love. Oh,
Wow.
yes, for sure. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I agree with this so much.
Well, big love to you and everyone here. So blessed. Very
Mhm.
hashtag
We're so
blessed.
proud of you. We're also proud of you, all of us on here.
Wow. I love it. I appreciate it so much. It's
Mhm.
I feel very warm
Mhm.
and not just like sweaty, nervous warm.
Oh, okay. There's no more nervous. There is still sweaty though. Exactly. Oh, thank you, everybody, for coming, and Kablusiak, thank you so much.
Oh, thank
Lovely
you.
to
This
talk
was
to
so
you.
lovely. Yeah, so nice to chat with you.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you so much to both of you, Dr. Lick, for moderating and leading this fantastic conversation, and Kablusiak again for participating with us. And I feel like we've talked so much over the last 2 years that I didn't have any questions that I didn't already ask you.
Totally chill.
So I see a couple of notes, just a bunch of hearts from people, lots of love, making sure there's no more questions. Thank yous. What was it like to know you won?
Yeah, there's another question. To know you had been shortlisted.
Oh, shortlisted was just like, I think I read the email while I was on the toilet and just started crying by myself.
Oh.
Like happy crying for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so oh, ha ha ha, I love you from Inuk. I had some good laughs too when I was on mute. I was like, I want them to know I'm laughing.
I love that.
Well, I think I misspoke earlier in my introduction. I said that this was the second of 5, but this is actually the third of 5 artist talks taking place every Thursday evening during the month of June. Thank you, Nakami, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their day. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking the time to talk with us. Kablusiak and Takale.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Koyanagni.